All right, welcome back to ATN's Anchor's Chat. ATN Blowout, and it's time for Anchor's Chat, that is. So the government of Lagos State orders the general manager of the State Infrastructure and Assets Management Agency, Adenike Adekanbi, to immediately proceed on suspension following the conclusion of deliberations and submission of reports by the panel established to probe the unfortunate elevator accident at the State General Hospital over Dr. Ware's Deaso's death. In a statement on Sunday, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Information and Strategy, Mr. Olumide Shogunle, said the facility managers had been sacked and blacklisted based on the state government findings. The operations online of reporting of the facility managers have been restructured to involve the hospital management directly. We have handed, he said, we have handed the installation and maintenance contractors to the police for further investigation and likely prosecution if they are found culpable. He said the police will also investigate anyone else that might have been found to be negligent. Engineers are working to unravel why all the safety devices of the elevator failed at the same time. All our staff, he said, are fully insured. We have informed our life insurance providers about this incident. He said the Lagos Safety Commission has been directed to immediately carry out an audit of all elevators in public offices. He said this is besides the usual safety arrangement that have always existed. Further said that we commiserate, as the Lagos State government commiserate with her family and her colleagues and pray for the repose of her soul. He said as a government, they feel the pain of this irreparable loss. May the Almighty console them and give them the strength to go through this difficult time. All right, first of all, kudos to the Lagos State government for weighing into what we expected to have been the very first step they ought to have taken on this matter. And I will tell you why. The conversation about investigating elevator professionals or installers to investigate what happened, what led to the accident, I think that is Lagos State government not being truthful. Yeah, that's trying to present alternative truth, because her colleagues, we have read severally where her colleagues, they have admitted that for years this elevator doesn't seem to be functioning. That sometimes it is able to carry one person, sometimes able to carry two persons, sometimes it doesn't even work at all. That other times, you know, it takes forever to close, that sometimes they have to use their leg, and all kinds of conversation have gone on when it comes to what led to Dr. Ware's death. So when the Lagos State government says that they want to find out why all the elevator is not working, I think that's been truthful by half. But again, kudos to them for even going ahead to investigate and firing those who should be fired, particularly blacklisting the facility manager. That is, if at the end of the day it is found that the facility manager knew about this, of course he should know. If he has gotten reports about this, of course he should have, and failed to report to the appropriate authorities. And I think that is where the blacklisting should happen. Because I agree he or she should be sacked, but if at the end of the day it will find out that he or she actually reported to his or her superior who should do something about this and they failed, court also demands that, knowing the danger that that thing puts on people, the facility manager ought to have also resigned without even being asked to or even requested to be transferred to another ministry. You know, raise alarm, take it further than your immediate superior. I believe that's how something should be done. If I have a subordinate and who has been reporting something to me, and this subordinate over time have made several reports about something that would endanger the organization that I work for, and I fail to do the needful, I honestly believe that moral obligation rests upon this subordinate to go above me and escalate the matter until the right attention is gotten. Now, if the facility manager did all that is within his or her right to do, and at the end of the day he or she is the one that is taking the fall, I honestly believe that he or she should speak up. Let those who actually should have done something. I honestly do not feel like it is just the facility manager that should be fired. I honestly think that everyone in the line of duty, from those who are managing the chief medical operating officer, whoever they are, CMD, whatever they are called in the general hospitals these days, those who are in charge of general hospital are done. The truth is that you failed. It shouldn't just be the facility manager that should go in for it. Every other person should be penalized for it one way or the other. So if by like I said, if the facility manager did what she or she should do, and those who are superior to him or her fail to do their due diligence, they should also be sacked and blacklisted. They shouldn't be serving in any organization where a living thing, I'm not even saying humans right now, I'm saying where a living thing operates. And I'll tell you the reason, very simple. The negligence, the nonchalance, the silence of these authorities within the General Hospital Odan is exactly what has led to this young woman's death. Nothing else. You cannot tell me that the chief operating officer or the medical, the CMD managing that particular general hospital, you cannot tell me that he or she is not aware that that lift is bad. I refuse to agree to that. Who is running the administration of that facility? Who are the human resource persons? Who, because internal stakeholders are part of the responsibility of an HR person within the organization. Who is in charge? Who is actually the person, the number one person in that facility? Don't just blacklist and sack the facility manager. Dear Governor Sanwo-Olu, go beyond that and ensure that everyone on the line of duty who ought to have done something about this is penalized or punished. If you're going to sack the facility manager, I do not know why you will not sack his or her superiors. I don't know how the investigation got to the point. Are you saying that for this number of years, those who are managing this hospital, the superior of the so-called facility manager is now aware that this lift is bad? I disagree. I do not I do not agree to that. It is difficult for me to agree that that's actually the correct thing. Like, are you serious right now? Like, I'm a manager in an organization. The lifts, one of the lifts is not working. I'm not aware for years. Come on now. That conversation doesn't suit well. But if the government have decided that the facility manager should take the fall, how are you going to ensure that those who are superior to the facility manager are not going to maintain the same nonchalance, lack of value to human lives, and then worst case, you end up having a worst case scenario than what has just played out. So somehow I want to believe and hope that somehow something can be done about this. And I also want to say on the show this morning that the wife of the Lagos State Governor owe the family of Dr. Diaso Vuare apology. You cannot, in all fairness, we need to have this conversation, everyone. When people are mourning, when you should be angry at those who are operating that hospital, that failed in their responsibilities, you want to blame it on a spirit. Now the spirit or the arrow, wherever the arrow used someone to perpetuate the act. And the people that the arrow used, according to you, arrow was sent and all of that. Yeah, that's cool. We can want to believe, but the mediums through which the arrow was used, and they are the people, including this facility manager that has been sacked and blacklisted. Those are the people I expect you as a mother, as a matured Nigerian woman, as a first lady of Lagos State, to demand for their immediate sack, to serve as a deterrent to anyone who would want to be negligent when it comes to managing government facility. So I honestly ask that you apologize to the mourning family, apologize to the Nigerian Medical Association, who have lost one of their bright minds and young minds. Because when you open your mouth and say certain things, I hope that people can go back and think within themselves. This thing that I just said, what is the impact of what I've said to the life of other people? So the wife of the Lagos State Governor need to apologize to the family of this young woman, especially because the findings have now shown that it was negligence by those who are managing the facilities, those who are running the General Hospital Odan, that actually watched this atrocity being carried out because they knew that the lift was bad and they did nothing about it. So I think you owe this family apology. You owe Nigerian doctors apology. You owe Nigerians apology. That is a level of insensitivity that is not supposed to, we're not supposed to pretend about. That is within here, that ma'am, we heard you, and you owe this family, you owe Nigerians, you owe Nigerian medical doctors, who are the healthcare practitioners who are mourning their own right now. An apology. This is government negligence. Negligence, yes, is not the governor per se. It is those who are working for the government that were negligent to their responsibilities that led to the death of this young man. Every kobo that the family spent on training this young woman in Babcock University, every hour she spent reading, studying, to see that she becomes something responsible, every desire, every dream she had has just been crushed by the negligence of a group of individuals. And you sit down, I said that it was an arrow, a spiritual attack. Excuse me, ma'am, we demand that you apologize. And that's me being very sincere and blew out this morning. Let's not pretend that these things are okay. When ladies, women in authority open their mouths and say things, or people in authority, you need to be considerate. You're a mother. I'm sure you have children. If you don't have children, I'm sure you adopted. I'm sure you have some that you must have trained, that you're emotionally at least linked to. Do you know how bad it feels for the mom or the family of this girl, this doctor, to wake up and like, hold on, all that we had to go through to see her through school. Hold on, all that this young woman had to go through, reading so much to ensure that she becomes useful, a useful member of the society, was shut down by the negligence of government. And well, there's a findings now that says it was not so-called arrow. And if there was an arrow passed through certain people. And we hope that you can apologize and then add your voice to those who are calling for more sanctions on the people who are managing this facility, the General Hospital Odan. Those who are managing the facility need to be held responsible. I do not agree that it should just be the facility manager, because this is how we sweep these things under the rug. Someone takes the fall, probably someone who doesn't have a voice, probably someone who does not have anyone to fight for them, because sacking him and blacklisting him simply means that no one is going to employ him. That's basically what it means. His or her name is out there right now, and we are not, I don't know where he or she is going to take his or her resume to, or try to apply to do anything, and the person will be accepted. So failure to punish all others who are in the line of this, who fail to do the needful or observe and take responsibility where and when necessary, is something that is not going to really go down well, because another facility manager will also come in if those who are taking the lead ahead of him or her is failing to respond to situations as at when due. I mean, we're also talking about the River State Secretariat and the challenge with the facility there, especially the lifts. You know, and all of this has been going on for quite some time, and nobody really wants to talk about it. But having said that, I hope that more actions will be taken, more punitive measures will be taken, more people who will be held responsible for this. And we hope that the wife of the governor of Lagos State, having seen the findings of the state government right now, will apologize to this family. If possible, visit them, show some remorse, do something that shows that you actually empathize with them. Because the statement of arrow sent, well, ma'am, arrow passed through some medium, and that's how this whole issue came to be. So basically, we hope that government will learn to hold people responsible. And primarily, I just want to end by saying that I hope that everyone that has been given any responsibility, whether you think the responsibility is big or small, if you are earning money for something, I hope that you realize that you're not just serving yourself through that means, you are serving those who are working with you, you are serving the general public. And I hope that we all learn to do due diligence. And I pray that the soul of Dr. Voire, their soul, will rest in peace. I pray that God will grant the family the fortitude to bear through loss and go through this painful period. And that's been Anchor's Chat, everyone. We'll come back to you. I will get to look at other issues in the news this morning. Stay with us.
entry illegally. That is amazing.
Honorable,
You human
On the point of order.
Honorable.
Okay, good to have you back on ATN Blowout. It's time to blow out on the rest of the issues we have lined up for you this morning. But before we do that, I'd like to quickly welcome Barrister Precious Yesomwonodi. Good to have you on ATN Blowout today.
Thank you for having me.
And we have Reverend Nsirim Humphrey Nsirim. Good to have you on ATN Blowout today, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, gentlemen, let's roll. The National Assembly member representing Ikwo Eza South Federal Constituency at the National Assembly, Right Honorable Comrade Chinedu Oga, on Sunday asked members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities Owerri Zone, that's ASU, to apologize to the Vice Chancellor, Federal University of Technology Owerri, Professor Nenna Oti, over unwarranted accusations leveled against her by ASU. In a statement on Sunday, the lawmaker explained that it was the prerogative of the Vice Chancellor to ensure that wrongdoings are punished in line with stipulated laws of the university. According to the rep member, the leadership of ASU Owerri Zone should tender an unreserved apology to the Vice Chancellor of the Federal University of Technology Owerri, Professor Nnenaya Oti, for asking her to resign from office. That woman, he said, is a woman of substance and has the right to punish wrongdoings in the university. ASU can be seen as a selfish body because most times they pursue only what will be in their interest alone and not for the generality of the Nigerian students and the education sector. He said all those fighting Professor Oti are engaging in pure sabotage and should withdraw from such inimical practice. The Vice Chancellor Futo is a woman for proven integrity with a high premium on prudence and accountability. Now, record that ASU, where a zone had demanded the immediate resignation of the Vice Chancellor of Futo over alleged corruption and anti-union activities. Oh well, it's been over about 2 years or thereabouts since this issue started, for instance, particularly when it comes to the said doctorate award given to Issa Pantami, then minister, and then it's been ongoing, and all of these accusations and counter accusation from ASU. She had to leave ASU and continued with her job, but somehow that doesn't seem to pan out well with us. Now the demand for her sack seems to have gotten the rep members' attention, and he's saying they owe her an apology. I'd like to have you react to this, Barrister Wanodi.
Well, the issue at hand is that when someone acts based on her own integrity, because from my own observation, I've seen that woman to be a woman of high integrity and uncompromising standard. I got to know her much after this election, the general election that just passed. She was a returning officer in Abia State who stood her grounds to ensure that the elections counted. So on that premise, I do not know her as a person, in her personal capacity with respect to her personal integrity. However, based on what I've seen and perceived, people, ASU being an institution, have their rules and regulations and have authorities who man that institution and knows when their rules are being flouted. I believe definitely that where Nena Oti appears to have been wrongly accused by ASU, there are different measures that can be taken to ensuring that the name, such accusations or wrong accusations are streamlined.
They're already in court.
Yes.
She took them to court.
Yes. So since the matter is before the court, let the court decide as to whether such allegation is accurate or not. If the court decides the otherwise, definitely there is a consequence against ASU on that respect. But definitely, like I have said earlier, the woman is a woman of proven integrity, just like the honorable member of the assembly. Yeah, so I can also attest to that fact. Based on that, the recently passed election, she's a woman of proven integrity. Yes. So let us allow the court process to run and then see the outcome of that matter before the court.
All right, thank you, Barrister Wanodi. I'm coming to you, Reverend Sirim. So now we have this situation of a woman, a said woman of proven integrity, but there are some squabbles about awarding of the, well, that's the one at least that is quite known, awarding the certificates to the honorary degree to Issa Pantami at the time. Now the union also is saying that it didn't follow due process, and a lot of issues have come out from that. But critically speaking right now, she said from the report we also got, her explanation is that she wasn't even the one that initiated the process, that it was done by her predecessor. So it's like saying coming in and putting an end to that and all of that. I do not know how the process is supposed to go and all, but she has put up a defense. But as we insist, now she has gone to court. They are demanding for her sack. Now, the member representing Eko is a federal constituency in the National Assembly is saying you owe her an apology. There is no reason why ASU should be going at her the way they are going. But let's get to have your take, please.
Yeah, well, personally, I number one is a matter before the court, and it's not a thing we will begin to debate more deeply with due respect to our judicial system. But if I'm to say one or two, I don't know. You know, it's most times a confusion to join two issues. What do I mean by that? These are two different issues, just like my brother raised the council. Yes, she's a woman of reputable integrity based on what happened during the election. Circumstances that surrounded her action at that moment. I may not know all that is there, but in this case, if she has admitted that the action that she took, she did not initiate it. If there is a rule, if there is a proceeding, if there is a procedure in effecting an action, irrespective of who started it, when you would have come into a position, you don't follow what people have done, you follow the rule. Okay? I'm not here to indict her. And secondly, Oga, who is speaking, I don't know where he is coming from. Because if a matter is before the court, to the best interest of the nation and the people who are involved is to allow the court to summarily come out with a position on that matter before you will say a party should apologize to the other party. However, I still hold Professor Nena Oti in high regard and a responsible person, but that does not rule out the fact that there might not be one or two errors. But if there is, any party who is found wanting should do the needful.
Okay. We hope that something is done and the needful is done, and we hope that there's some form of amicable, reconciliation. We hope that those who can find a way to mediate and not to maybe make more issues. But what we have is hope. I will keep bringing you this conversation as we make progress on issues of national interest. But now, the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center accuses President Tinubu of appointing persons believed to be corrupt into leadership positions. In a statement issued alongside Transparency International Nigeria in Abuja on Saturday, CISLAC Executive Director said Awa Musa Rasanjani said, a scenario where an individual who has very substantial corruption allegation against him is made to lead the ruling political party is worrisome. He said these are happening despite ongoing investigation by anti-graft agency both at the state and federal level against some of these individuals. He said, we find it appalling that some of the names sent by the President to the National Assembly to be screened for ministerial positions have corruption-related cases to answer with the anti-graft agencies. So going by this list, the President would correctly be perceived as shown lack of care about integrity and governance and turn a deafening ears to public outcry on key issues, especially the fight against corruption. So he said, for example, the list has an ex-governor internationally accused of aiding a former military ruler to launder Nigeria's wealth abroad. It is also disturbing that the politician who has a case to answer with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission is at the leadership of National Assembly and will be conducting oversight duties on anti-graft agencies, including the EFCC. CISLAC said, we find it very sad that young Nigerians will have no positive lesson to learn from these corrupt leaders. Citizens and well-meaning Nigerians must continue to demand that transparency, accountability, and responsible leadership be institutionalized in our public offices. All right, Barrister Yesum Wanadi, this is one conversation that is, I would say is about time we begin to have this conversation. And it's very simple, particularly in a society where we expect an Mesoma I'm trying to remember her surname now. I was trying to the young girl who forged her, said to have forged her JAMB results. Now, when we expect an Mesoma of this country to live uprightly, when we expect the young guys who see the flamboyant lifestyle of the high and mighty, those the elite class politicians and celebrities perchance, we expect them to be humble, to go through school, to do the right thing. When we expect people to live righteously based on what is being taught in the church, but look across board from the church to the governance of positions of authority, what CISLAC and Transparency International is basically saying is that this has gone on for too long. It's become needful as it is for the Nigerian government to be held responsible. But again, how much of this blame can we really put at the doorstep of the president, if you may?
Yes, thank you. On that issue, I do not rule out the fact that any person who should be appointed to a position of authority, who should be in a position to take decisions on behalf of the people, should be someone without a questionable character. That is number one. But that is on the grounds of morality. However, the CISLAC pointed to issues of persons who have been nominated into the ministerial positions as having allegations of criminality against them. Unfortunately, our laws, which Nigeria is found being operated upon, is very clear under the Constitution that any person who is accused, we run an accusatorial system of criminal justice, such that any person who is accused of a criminal offense first will be presumed to be innocent before then shall be proven guilty, except such a person has been proven guilty by a competent court of competent jurisdiction. That is when you can assert criminality against that person. But since, even if our law is such that even if you are caught in the act, even if you are found wanted in the act, first you have to be pronounced to be guilty before that identity of criminality will be apportioned to you. So the within this stage, it is still at the realm of accusation. In as much as I also uphold or still support that any person who should man a position should be a person of high integrity, but you should look at the laws. The laws sometimes are always bane to our actions. So the president, in as much as any person appears to be qualified, has the requisite qualification to be appointed, and has not been found wanting by any competent court in our land, within our corpus juris, can be appointed, except the person has been pronounced guilty by the court. Because the court, the rationale for that could also be that during the court proceedings, a lot of things happens. You don't know, someone may accuse, and at the end of the day, it lies within the realm of proving, and the standard of proof within the criminal jurisprudence is proof beyond reasonable doubt for you to be able to nail that person and say you have actually committed such a crime. So that is the procedure to actually coming to the conclusion that someone is a criminal within the context of our laws. So without which, because Nigeria is an institution founded under law, and anything we must do must find expression under the law. So the president haven't appointed ministerial nominees who have not been pronounced by competent court. Cannot be seen to have done any wrong, except where the court have pronounced obviously that such a person is found wanting within the criminality. Then the president will be blamed. In fact, the Senate, within the realm of within the stage of the Senate confirmation, the person will not be accepted. Because if you listen or if you watch through the process of confirmation, you see a lot of questions being asked. Just like one of the Dr. Bosun, who was being grilled, a mere tweet which he tweeted accusing pointing to the integrity of the senators, using some languages pointing to the sovereignty and pointing to his citizenship of the country. He was being questioned, but he haven't found that he was wrong based on his tweets. He apologized. But this is a mere tweet, and this is something not within the realm of criminality, not to talk of when someone has been found wanting. Once someone is being found wanting, it behoves on the Senate, the National Assembly, whose duty is to confirm the person in question or the nominee, to also point out that issue of criminality being found within the context of being found guilty by a competent court. Then the person will not scale through. But since it lies within the realm of accusation and within the context of our criminal justice, we run an accusatorial system of criminal justice under section 36 sub 5 of the Constitution, that any person who is accused, the person must be accused, and once the person is accused, he have to prove beyond reasonable doubt, which is the standard set by the law, to ensuring that the person is found guilty. And except the person is found guilty, you cannot ascribe criminality upon that person's reputation. That is my take.
All right, thank you, Barrister Wanadi. Yes. I'm going to you, Reverend Surim. So now, saying or accusing Tinubu of President Tinubu of lacking integrity and governance because he has appointed people with supposedly questionable character, referring to Akpabi, for instance, alleging that he has a case in the EFCC. So how is he going to carry out oversight function over the EFCC? That's on one side. And then if you also look at the other side of it, where they also talked about some ministers like the Ganduje emerging the national leader of the APC, for instance, and several other pointers to that he talked about someone who was accused of laundering money for Abacha and all of that. If you put all of this side by side and ask, how exactly has President Bola Ahmed Tinubu not shown integrity and governance by these appointments, if you may?
Yeah, well, there is something the Bible talked about. I want to bring that to bear. The reason is a corrupt tree cannot bear good fruit. Neither will a good tree bear corrupt fruit. Number two, a fountain that produces bitter water cannot produce sweet water. This it's sacrosanct. No, nothing changes it. In this situation, I don't expect any other thing than that. Just as every person had encouraged Nigerians to pray for a better Nigeria, I still trust that we'll come to a point where a better Nigeria will be in view. Appointment and portfolio allocated to such appointees are started to be corrupt people. The system is already running on that. That's the point I'm trying to make. The system is already running on that. The prayer is just let the judiciary be up to the task of their judicial function to bring the nation to repute, by their offices. And such things will not be a thing to be said. If you look at the lineup of what the accusations are, it's just the same. It's just the same. It's recycling of the same people. Ganduje emerging, Babio coming to where he is as, and all the thing. For me, I still remain in the place where there has to be a sovereign intervention by God to rescue this nation.
I think that's understandable, being that you're a reverend gentleman.
Yes, yes.
But the thing now is this. If we are looking at this to be what it is, shouldn't President Bola Ahmed Tinubu be cautious, given that his own reputation is basically hanging on the loop? There's been several accusations against him related to being corrupt and what have you. If you're looking at that and having the fact that these men that he has endorsed for critical positions right now are already painting a picture of him as someone like Sislak and ATI have said that he does not have the integrity in governance. So shouldn't he be more cautious when it comes to these appointments?
Being cautious is relative. Conscious of what? Already where you are sitting is shaking. Every person who wants to keep what is keeping him will be cautious in keeping that thing. That's why relativity of the consciousness is basically what I'm talking about. If you bring in right people, to be in the position. They will speak things that are right. If the process that brought you there is not really right, what would you have done? So the being cautious, Vivian, I'm only concerned about the fact that every game that is being played is protective. Is protective. Is to be sure that whatever is going to be also runs within the circle where you feel protected. That's why in my previous contribution, I have asserted, and I still say, that God in his own infinite mercy will take hold of the judiciary, give them that courage and boldness to come up with decisions that will make the executive to really know that there is an eye watching. For the situation where both the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary are like powers and are trying to protect one another in a system such as that, protection and consciousness, relativity, I mean, is something we now need to. Okay, let me ask you a question. Peradventure, the President Tinubu, listens to what Siglak is saying and what the transparency is saying, and he comes now to say, let me put right people. Let me appoint people of integrity, to those positions. What will be the outcome? Integrity will play out. So eventually, the process that brought him in, to what degree is the integrity of such process? I mean, that's why I say relativity of the word conscious is my concern.
All right. We'll see how all of this pans out. We're still discussing the news, everyone. We'll just look into another story real quick. So, this has to do with SERAP. So the Social Economic Rights and Accountability Project files a lawsuit against President Bola Tinubu at the Federal High Court over failure to publish spending details of money saved from fuel subsidy on premium motor spirit. SERAP, in a statement issued in Lagos, by its Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, said the organization is seeking an order of the court to direct and compel Tinubu to publish details of spending of about 400 billion saved as a result of the removal of subsidy on petrol from May 29, 2023. SERAP argues that the government has a legal obligation to ensure that the savings from the removal of subsidy are spent for the benefit of poor Nigerians who, it said, are bearing the brunt of the removal. In the suit filed last week at the Federal High Court in Lagos, SERAP is seeking an order of mandamus to direct and compel President Tinubu to provide details of the plans on how the savings from the removal of subsidy on petrol, including specific projects on which the funds will be spent. The suit, which was filed by Kolawole Oluwadare, Ms. Adelanke Aremo and Ms. Valentina Adegoke on behalf of SERAP, argues that the spending of the savings from the subsidy removal would have negative impact on the fundamental interests of the citizens and the public interest, adding that the action was brought to the court under the Freedom of Information Act, Section 39 of the Nigerian Constitution and Article 9 of the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and Article 19 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Vice Warnody again coming to you first. SERAP is making a demand, which in my head I think all Nigerians should be part of. But now the concern is this demand have gone to court. The court will have to determine if the president will or will not, and we'll know how technicalities and some of these factors that we are not even aware of comes to play when in issues like this. But we just talked about the integrity of Mr. President and all of this. So while we wait for whatever the court outcome will be, shouldn't the president, as a matter of fact, on the grounds of morality or for the sake of his integrity, actually come out transparently without even being forcing SERAP to go to court after the first demand they made for accountability? How much have you gotten? What did you do with it? Where is this money? And without even doing that, they have gone to court right now. So shouldn't integrity make him come up to say, hey, this is what we got and this is where it is.
Ordinarily, that is what is expected of every responsible government.
Okay.
To show transparency in everything you do, because the people who have supposedly put you there, I say supposedly because there is a pending litigation before the court. So based on the determination of the court, we will know whether it's the right person who is to occupy the seat or not. But it's expected, since he's the person we are seeing for the time being in force, is the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you know, having superintended over the economy, having superintended over our finances and budgeting. So it is expected that he should be transparent in handling the public fund. If SERAP demands, within the context of the law under the Freedom of Information Act, for there to be published details of expenses, they are not wrong. But compelling him to, you know, make utility of it is a different ballgame altogether. That is one thing also that has become an issue of controversy, and people within the legal profession have always called for the review and amendment of Chapter 2 of the Constitution, which is fundamental objectives and directive principles of state policies, which is largely non-justiciable, which reads out what economic responsibilities of government is supposed to be, both at the state and federal level, but at the end of the day made it non-justiciable, that nobody can go to the court to compel the government as to how and when to make utility of these funds. So I think the matter is sub judice. I wouldn't want to jump into what they, or preempt what they call to rule on this issue, but it is within the right of SERAP. This is a body made up of citizens who are also being directly affected by whatever the removal of subsidy. Obviously, in as much as President Tinubu is there managing the resources of the people, the citizens, it is not his personal money. So he is accountable to the citizens, and if called by the citizens, is made for him to show details as to how much is being realized and how expenses have been made. I think based on moral grounds, I would say that they are not wrong to have made such a call, and it behoves on a responsible government to so comply and then make details. If you feel that there's no cockroach in your cupboard, that is my submission.
All right, thank you. Last week, Reverend Nsirim, the president in his speech, nationwide broadcast, said that when he was speaking on the subsidy, that they have recovered over 1 trillion. So we are asking, Sarah was just asking you, give us details of, you said what you saved was 400 billion. So over last week he said it's now they've saved over 1 trillion. So we are asking, Sarah is asking rather, give us details of what you have saved. Show us detailed plan. How was it done? Where is this money and what is it being used for? We're talking about palliative. We're hearing about money being shared to different states and what have you. No transparency in this, but we know that a key component of government is transparency, being able to properly and articulately communicate your policies, your programs, so that the people can be carried along, which is a major tenet in democracy. Now that the president doesn't seem to be towing that, they failed to toe that line after Serap made the request, they have now gone to court over it. Should they even have gotten to this point? If we're looking at all the experience we're told that Tinubu has when it comes to governance, as a thing that should come to play here?
Yeah, well, for me, I just as my brother said, the matter is sub judice, and whatever you need to say, with every respect to the judicial system, but I want to doff my hat for Serap.
Okay.
You know, for Serap, first and foremost, for bringing this enlightenment to the public and inducing the consciousness to ask questions as it relates expenses, income and expenses of the government. Okay? The other thing I want to say is, to a responsible government, transparency shouldn't be, accountability shouldn't be demanded. It forms part of the responsibility of the government to lead the people. In fact, even coming to tell the state, even coming to tell the led, even coming to tell the people that XYZ have been recovered or has been saved in the bid to remove subsidy, in spite of the myth, that surrounds subsidy removal. You should not just come and say 1 trillion. You shouldn't come and say 400 billion. It should have been, look, having recovered or having gained XYZ, this is what it has done. And this is the way it has been able to achieve this. And this is what we intend to do in the future. By so doing, you're building confidence in the people who, quote and unquote, gave you access to the place where you're sitting today as the president. Whereas that is not done. I am only praying that the court will listen to Serap and possibly grant them what they are asking for. And if possible, compel, because if the grant order of mandamus, we already know what it is to compel the federal government to come to terms with the people, that the electorates, to come to terms with the nation and make them know, look, this is what we've gotten. So far, this is what we've done. That's simply what Serap is asking. Tell us, 400 billion, good. 1 trillion, good. All this money, where is the money? How have you used it? If you say we've not used it, it's still in the coffers of the country, good. What do you intend to do with the money? Should these questions be asked, tendered their plans? They brought this before the nation, and we are not saying, no, this, the way it went, we really don't like it. No, this should have done this way, this should have. Then it will be like a contributory thing, as a means of making a better, or making governance to be something that will be fruitful to the masses. But if you are waiting to be compelled, then it puts a question mark on you as the president, and possibly your team of leaders or your cabinet. So if you ask me, I doff my heart for Serap, for what they are doing, and still pray that, just as you said while you were introducing this matter, that we all should embrace what Serap is doing, having come to this light. The reason why I doff my heart for Serap is Serap keep doing this thing, bringing Nigerians to consciousness, to some salient issues that we do not know. And they don't stop at just mentioning it. They pursue it. They may not have gotten judicial support or judgments to some of the things they've alleged, but that they are making the moves, for me, is in the right direction.
Awesome. All right, kudos to Serap. We'll take a short break. When we come back, a group vowed to end any form of criminality in Fulani's name. That's the conversation we'll have after the break. Stay with us. vows to deploy traditional means in the fight against was masquerading as Fulanese. The group, in a communique issued after a national leadership consultative meeting convened by the FUP and in association with Arawa New Agenda on Sunday in Abuja, the leaders of the group from the territory Nigeria. Let me start from you. I'll come back to you, Barrister Wanodi. Reverend Sin, let's start from the down. They are talking about healing, reconciliation, and what have you. Now, this is your field, but primarily. Let's look at it from this angle. Over the years, there's been this, especially during President Buhari's administration. Oh, Fulanese, killer headsmen. Fulanese, basically, as a tribe or as an ethnic group, have been, drawn around, they've been dragged around the conversation of killers, headsmen, and what have you. Now that this comes to an end, what's your reaction to this, sir?
Well, my reaction is simple. I have a father in ministry, Reverend Professor Madoba.
Sure, Madoba.
He tells a story, and the story is this. There are two birds, they dance one to another. This one, while dancing, shakes its tails and tells this other one, I love you, I love you, I love you. Then this other one dance around and in response tell you, show it, show it, show it. It's the same case here. Fulbe is coming up to say, we want to take responsibility. They are simply saying, just like the reading closed, to the security of Nigeria and to the unity of the state of Nigeria. I want to thank God that they are thinking in that direction first, and they are telling Nigerians that they want to do something. This is identity redemption. That's eventually what they are engaging in now. In the world of conflict, it will be looked from that point. It's identity redemption. They want to redeem their identity, and from what they are asking to, they are asking for a network nationwide to be able to function, and they are also claiming that they supported Tinubu to come to power and all that. If they love Nigeria, they should show it. Let's see the work. Let's see that yes, this thing is the way they are saying it, okay? Because I bet you, as it is now, anywhere you are, and somebody comes in and say, I am Fulani, there's a way it's perceived. Even the good ones. So this consultative forum they have had to redeem their image, to redeem their identity, and to let Nigerians know that those guys who claim their identity as Fulani are not truly Fulani, that they are criminals, based on how they call them. Until we see that, we are still waiting to be sure that what they are saying should be believed.
Okay, now let me come to you, Barrister Wanodi. This vow to end any form of criminality in Fulani's name, how timely is it? Considering that for 8 years we had a Fulani tribe, someone from the Fulani tribe of Fulbe, as they call themselves, who was the president for 8 years, and that was a period where their reputation as a tribe was taken to the cleaners, if I can say that myself. But bringing it to bear that there is a new sheriff in town, and suddenly they are saying, we need to clean our name, like Reverend Humphrey said. We need to clean our name. We have to put an end to this. So this vow, do you think it is real? Do you think they have what it takes? They talked about using traditional means to do that. Do you think they have what it takes to actually gather these people together, seeing that they are invariant you?
Well, the issue there is we all know the problems related to issues of Fulani. It all boils down to cattle rearing, and these cattle being transported to different places, destroying post crops. And we all know the solution. There have been suggestions as to ways as to how this should be. these are private businesses, why not organize a better ranching wherein you have a particular place at enclosure where you take care of your cow or cattle? But this has been objected to by this tribe before now, have laid claim, that continuing in that listed, there has been a series of resistance to that suggestion, to that solution-driven suggestion, to ensuring that this comes to an end. What brings up clashes? If they are ready, because it's not by saying you will have a local means or traditional means of bringing people and then seeing to the solution of the problem. The solution of the problem have been identified. And the identity of the solution is that, do you rear cow? Yes. Do you transport this cow? Up to today, it's been done. Destroying people's crops. Are you ready to embrace this ranching method of rearing your cow? These are the questions that must be answered before we, fall into this. Having come to that solution, I think it behoves the government. It is not even their own prerogative, because the two pillars of justice, namely that quod non habet and odi oterem patem, comes into play here. It cannot be a judge in your own cause, trying to solve a solution which you have been accused widely to be a perpetrator of the problem. There should be a neutral body. The government should come into place to put in policies in place. And what are these policies? The ranching system should be brought into bear, looking into the problem, the main problem that's brought this tribe, Fulani, into disrepute, is a longing way to solving the problem. And that is ensuring that being a government, make use of the instrumentality of the laws. We have the grazing laws all over, to ensuring that this cattle rearing, being a private business, if you want to own a particular place, negotiate with the members of the community, and if they agree to purchase that land where you want to rear a cow, fine and good, and not with impunity taking your cattle into the people's land, into where people plant their crops, eat up their crops. Animal rearing is a way of, that is part and parcel of farming. People rearing of crops, planting of crops, and then harvesting them is also part and parcel within this fair or the same sector. So if you don't use your own economic activities to destroy another person's economic activity, and you expect that there should be peace, you expect that there should be no reaction. So these are the underlying factors and problems. Except these problems are brought to the bear, and then there is the body language of the Fulani group should be in acceptance to this solution-driven idea, and that is ensuring that since this has been identified as a private business, agreeing to be more confining your cattle, doing it in a more modern way, agreeing to the grazing laws. You understand?
Right.
To ensuring that these activities are not such that you use your own comfort to offend other people's comfort. Those are the problems, the things that bring problems in the country with respect to this tribe.
All right, thank you. We hope that both the government and the Fulbe tribe or ethnic group would put all of this into consideration. Now, the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Taoreed Lagbaja, vows that Nigerian military will continue to defend the nation's democracy no matter the challenges it faces. General Lagbaja spoke at the assurance or at the during the passing out parade of officers of Executive Commission course one at the Army School of Infantry located in Jaji, Kaduna State. Laboja said the desire of every Nigerian is to have a flourishing and uninterrupted constitutional democratic governance and promote the interests of well-meaning citizens. He taxed the officers against indulging in any form of insubordination, while stressing that they should remain apolitical in the discharge of their constitutional duties. The Chief of Army Staff said, "I therefore charge all Nigerian Army personnel to be proud champions of our flourishing democracy and remain apolitical in discharging their constitutional duties." Laboja's warnings are coming amid the current tension in the country over the military junta in Niger Republic. Let me come to you, Reverend. This is a very interesting conversation because there's a palpable tension in the land, as a matter of fact. But this warning now, or this charge being given by the Nigerian Chief of Army Staff, how timely is it to send a message across, hey, we are strong and ready to take up any challenging forces that comes our way?
I'm not a military man. I just want to start with that. And as a civilian, I don't think he's speaking to the civilians. He's speaking to the military. He's trying to encourage the military to stay within the military guard and refuse submitting to anti-democratic activities such as coup. I also don't want to divorce it from what's been going around the African nations presently. Is a threat. Nigeria being the giant, being the focal point, being the strength of most of the African military, is just to reassure the president that they are loyal. This is a speech of loyalty, to the existing government, to reassure them that they want to protect democracy. Just as I said, I'm not a military man. Don't intend to be one. So he's speaking to them. But I also want to believe that he is also speaking to the government to do the right thing. Whereas you don't do the right thing, you can't stop people from crying out. You don't beat a child and stop the child from crying. No one does that. I mean, I'm sure it could be part of what we're discussing, okay? If you look at what's happening today, sorry I'm preempting, in Niger, if you look at what happened in Burkina, if you look at what happened in Mali, these are nations where, what are they crying out for? They are simply saying, give us right governance. We believe in democracy, but don't use democracy as a tool to subjugate the entire masses and do what you feel you want to do. Look at the Nigerian case. He's speaking to the military. I pray that as he's speaking to the military, he should also speak to the government, just like I said. That's where the masses, the general masses, unfortunately, you agree with me if we want to be real to ourselves and be realistic to what is on ground. Arms, the proliferation of arms in this country today is something that no person can predict. You don't even know where arms are. You don't even know who is having one or who doesn't have one. So as he's speaking to the military, I pray that he should also speak to the government that would have vested on him the responsibility of being the army chief, and while he's doing that, encourage them, why not tamper justice with mercy so that you don't provoke the masses to rise up? Because if the masses rises up to say we are tired, it might be more brutal. Today in the Niger situation, it's not just about the military. It's about the masses.
All right. Thank you, sir. Now let's look at something real quick. The Jamaatul Nasrul Islam warns Nigeria and the authorities of the Economic Community of West African States against military action at the junta in the Niger Republic. In a statement issued in Kaduna by the GNI, Secretary General Prof. Khalid Aliyu on Saturday said, "We firmly note the relevance of upholding democratic principles and the rule of law to fostering the stability, development, and steady progress within nations. Without doubt," he said, "these are the cornerstones for good governance, and because democratic principles and the rule of law prevent arbitrary use of force and power and ensure consistency with international human rights norms and standards." Jenai said, while these attempts may not have yielded the desired results, it demonstrates Nigeria's commitment to peaceful resolutions. So he said they acknowledge that dialogue is an invaluable tool in preventing further bloodshed and instability within the Sahel region, which has many political and security uncertainties. Aliyu further said, nevertheless, we wish to raise a word of caution against pursuing military action as a means to restore democracy. He said, "We believe strongly that dialogue, cooperation, and negotiation are the most effective means to establish lasting peace and stability in the region." He said, "Let us pray together for the restoration of peace and order, the protection of human rights, and the well-being of people of Nigeria and Niger Republic." While he maintains that they are united against any form of injustice, oppression, and violence, and advocate for a peaceful and harmonious world. But it's wonderful, quickly, if you look at all of these stands right now, everybody seems to be pointing at the same thing: dialogue. Let's have conversation. If you also look at the fact that the northern senators, when the President Tinubu wrote them, rejected any form of military force being used in the Niger issue. If you look at the fact that, like Reverend Sirim said, some of the African countries are already backing out. So Senegal, demonstrating their military might over the weekend, and all bits and pieces of everything seem to be happening at the same time. But we'd like to have your take.
Yes, the call for dialogue is the right way to settle this issue. There are some situations that will play out. Although I must say that democracy is the best form of government because it allows for participation, it allows for decision making of the people, to be respected when it comes to governance. This issue of military intervention or military action, I must state that before you talk of taking action militarily, you must look at the situation. The situation in Niger Republic is such that, as at yesterday, they were all gathered in their stadium and see the massive support the people, the citizens, have given to the military. Those are the areas you should look at, the body language of the citizens. Because democracy that you wish to restore, as defined by Abraham Lincoln, is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. In fact, I must state, by that definition, what is democratic or what is democracy is what the people accepts. It's the acceptance of the people. By Hans Kelsen, in his pure theory of law, stated that where there's a revolution and the people, by and large, start conforming to the new legal order, it becomes efficacious. That becomes a norm. In fact, it is even more democratic if it is the will of the people that the military should take over. That is democracy for you. The people, they feel that they are being impoverished by the so-called democratic leader who is being ousted. And they feel that there should be need for change, and the change has come. And the people, by and large, love it. So, military action, being an external force, the ECOWAS, should tread with caution. It is not in every aspect, it is not in every situation that you should talk about military action. This situation requires dialogue. This situation requires to know the mind of the citizens, to know what the citizens want. Because Niger Republic is a sovereign nation by all standards, who have the right to do whatever that pleases them within what the citizens needs or desires. So if the citizens, from the body language of the citizens, they desire change, and that change they have confirmed and then accepted the current norm, which is the taking over by the military, so be it. That is to my own estimation.
All right.
And my own conclusion.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Well, we're still talking Niger coup because that is a major news in the African continent and across the world, as a matter of fact. Let's wrap up with the angle from the senior advocate, the renowned senior advocate of Nigeria and human rights lawyer Femi Falana, who says the Economic Community of West African States needs to be authorized by the United Nations before it can intervene in restoring democratic rule in the military-held Niger Republic. The senior advocate of Nigeria, in a statement released on Sunday, August 6, said the conduct of ECOWAS as a regional arrangement is subject to the provisions of the United Nations Charter, particularly Article 53, subsection 1 and general international law. Falana said, in addition to the above constitutional mandate, ECOWAS is required to seek and obtain the authorization of the UN Security Council to launch an attack on a sovereign nation pursuant to Article 53, subsection 1 of the United Nations Charter. Article 53 provides, 53 subsection 1 provides that in part that the Security Council shall, where appropriate, utilize such a regional arrangement or agencies for enforcement action under its authority, but no enforcement action shall be taken under regional arrangement or by regional agencies without the authorization of the Security Council. Falana said this means that the conduct of the ECOWAS as a regional arrangement is subject to the provisions of the United Nations Charter, particularly Article 53, subsection 1 and general international law. Falana therefore stated that it would be illegal if ECOWAS launches any intervention in Niger Republic without the approval of the United Nations Security Council. The statement adds that it is also clear that any intervention by ECOWAS, apart from being subject to the authorization of the Security Council, must be on a collective basis and not a unilateral one. In the absence of the explicit Security Council authorization, any intervention by ECOWAS would be illegal unless it concerns a situation of self-defense, which is clearly not the case in the situation of the planned intervention in Niger. So he said, according to the Section 5, subsection 4 of the Constitution of Nigeria 1999 as amended, the President must seek the approval of both houses of the National Assembly. President Tinubu's administration is mandatorily required to seek the approval of both houses of National Assembly. This is in compliance with Section 5, subsection 4 of the Constitution of the Nigeria 1999 as amended, which stipulates as follows. In the absence of explicit Security Council authorization, any intervention by the ECOWAS would be illegal unless it concerns a situation of self-defense, which is clearly not the case in the situation of the planned intervention in Niger. All right, let me start with the lawyer. I'll come back to you, Reverend. So it's good that first and foremost as a society we have the likes of the Falana and other senior advocates of Nigeria who are also echoing the same line of conversation. We know that the president wrote to the Senate, to the Red Chambers, not to the House of Reps. That's on one side. And then they went into an independent meeting at about 3 hours or thereabouts and came out and said, no, we cannot authorize this. Primarily also the northern senators were outrightly in opposition to this because, I mean, they're also there to represent their people and to ensure they speak up for themselves, considering where Niger is and all of that. But I'd like to ask you now, legally speaking, Barrister Yesom Wanode, how come the president and his team did not know about all of this first before they actually began to give a 7-day ultimatum to Niger, which has expired now? Nothing came out of that because the military junta in Niger is, in fact, they've mocked us in several forms. How come also that the president, again, after making those threats with the ECOWAS some leaders, came back. Well, not all of them. Some Guinea and others, Burkina Faso and Mali, were not part of it. They didn't come for that meeting. Now they came back again. He came back again, writing to the National Assembly, but just writing to the upper chamber and not the joint house. How come we are seeing all of this glaring mistake or misadventure, if you may, by the president of Nigeria and the ECOWAS leadership?
Yes, that is where the function of the Attorney General is very, very germane. And as for now, we are still passing through the process of screening of ministerial nominees. But knowing full well that he does not have the legal know-how, so knowing what to do, we shouldn't have hastily done that without waiting for an advice from. That is the function of one of the functions of the Attorney General. And for the time being, we do not have any. The person who has been marked as being Latif Fagbeni, who has been screened, has not been confirmed. He has not been given portfolio. That is the only person who we are suspecting would be the Attorney General of the Federation.
Are you saying this in respect to writing the National Assembly or the part of ECOWAS themselves?
No, he ought to, because when you talk about ECOWAS, the head of the ECOWAS for the time being is Nigerian president.
Yes, but sorry, there are two things that Falana pointed. Yeah, there are there are two things that Falana pointed out. He said, first and foremost, ECOWAS does not have the power to intervene in another country, another republic, an independent country, without the UN Security Council's authorization.
Yes.
Second thing that President Buhari Tinubu also did is the fact that he also wrote the Senate and not the Joint House.
Yes. Now, for there to be approval of that nature, except on extreme urgency, it is required that the both House of National Assembly, because we have the Senate and the House of Representatives, who must be sitting in joint capacity to determining the approval of military intervention outside the country. And then ECO has been a sub-regional body under the United Nations, cannot operate without directives from the Security Council. It is clear from the UN article, Article 53.
Yeah, but we have
that as a regional body, when such intervention is to be carried out, you must, of a matter of necessity, seek the consent of the UN.
Yes.
Particularly the UN's security houses of National Assembly must sit and determine the approval, whether to approve or not.
All right.
Yes.
And that's legally speaking. But let me come to you now as a leadership expert, Reverend Humphrey Insirim. So, first and foremost, from what Falana and Barrister Precious one just said clearly, the ECOWAS already made goofed in the first place. They were not supposed to actually begin to make threats and make those declarations. They were not supposed to even send the envoy they did, to discuss with the junta in the Niger Republic without going to the UN Council, the Security Council. We also back here will have the president of Nigeria, Tinubu, who also did not follow due process in ensuring that both houses are allowed to negotiate on this matter. But here we are. The junta refused to talk to the consultant of Sokoto and Abdusalam Abubakar, who was sent to them. Here we are. The Senate is saying, no, you cannot send in troops. Now, with all of this that has played out within a short while, is it safe to say President Tinubu needs to step down and begin to look at things more critically than he has done so far, both as ECOWAS lead and the Nigerian president?
Okay, I want to begin, from where my brother, Pastor Wanode was talking. That has to do with there is a Bible quote that says, "Where there is no counsel, people are destroyed." But he's saying, in the multitude of counselors, there is safety. Number two, in leadership itself carries unnecessary their disposition, where they are asking that, as much as they believe in democracy, and also taking from what Barrister one of these said, what is democracy? At what point do you say democracy is effective? It's when the people say yes. It's when the people accept the rulership or the leadership or the government, so to speak. So having said that, if I were the president, I used to have a teacher. He's late now in secondary school. When he